Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. Today is day 47 of the daily UI. I'm still working on getting these back to a daily, but I don't know if it'll be possible. I'm going to try to get them more than once in a week. I'm going to try to get them 2 to 3 times if I can. I hope you guys can bear with me on that. But today we're going to be focusing on creating this one live, and it's going to be an activity feed. You guys also requested that I show my After Effects process, so we're going to be including that in today, and we're going to be animating it live as well. So let's get started designing our activity feed today. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I have a regular iPhone 6 and 7 template open here. I'm just going to change the name of that real quick. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each one of these numbers by 4. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the quality that I get in After Effects with a document this small is not very good. It's a little bit blurry. It works perfect for the presentation on the end of the video usually. But I try to remember to do this, and if I end up designing and I forget to do this, it's kind of a pain to scale it down and make sure all the strokes and things are adjusted. So I just leave it usually. But today I've remembered to do this, so we're going to multiply each one of these by 4, and that's 1500 by 2668. And so all of our spacing adjustments, I usually do like 20 spacing on most of my projects. They're now going to be 80 and things like that. So it's a little bit different to design like this, and it's a lot different sized elements. But I think it's going to come out a lot cleaner in After Effects. So that's what we're going to be shooting for today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do my usual kind of wireframe here just with basic shapes. Just gray out a shape. That's going to be the space for our status bar. In our status bar, I'm going to want to have the word activity feed just because that's what we're designing. And we're going to make that our gray but a little bit darker. And I'm going to center it up there. We're going to have 2 icons, one on each side. One is going to be a bell icon on the right, and the one we're going to be making here is our navigation. So I think I'm going to do something different with our navigation today. I think I'm going to do kind of a grid of squares, just something besides the usual 3-line navigation. I want to get creative and start making stuff, try to look a little bit different than I usually do. Sometimes I'll notice when I'm designing, I will get into a routine and some things will turn out too similar than I like. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And right here I'm just going to create a few squares, and this is going to symbolize our activity feed. So we're going to be creating 3 screens, and from that we're going to be creating our animation. So this is going to be each one of our posts so we can see what people have posted. Then I'm going to have a bar similar to the size of our status bar here pop up, and it's going to have a profile icon, and it's going to say Joe liked your post, and it's going to have a little heart icon, and you're going to be able to swipe left and right through those to view your kind of notifications as well, just to add a little bit of motion and a little bit more detail to the activity feed. So from here I'm going to name this wire. I always forget to add that on the end, and I'm just going to duplicate it straight down. And we'll call this one mock. I always use the Apple iOS status bar, so I'm going to go grab that. And I think we need the black one today since we're going to design a nice white themed app. I'll paste that in, and it is quite small. So I'm just going to scale this up to a rough size. I think they usually put it with a little bit of spacing on the sides and some on the top. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just the status bar. I think that'll work good. Let's add a little bit more space up there. And then I'm going to hold Alt and scale it in slightly. There we go. That's alright. So next I'm going to add some text. So let's delete that holder, and let's say activity feed. It's really hard for me to spell live in these videos. I have no idea why. That could be wrong. I got to look at it here in a second. And for font size, I have no idea what we should go with. Somewhere around 60 something would probably work. I think that's spelled right. I go spell blind in a lot of my videos. Okay, I have it spelled over here on this side of my other monitor so I can make sure that I don't misspell anything. Don't judge me. And let's see. Let's make that 300. There we go. That's perfect. Let's position this at the bottom and then go up like somewhere around there. So it's not like perfectly center. And then I'm going to drag these down and center them up with that text. There we go. For this is going to need to be a little bit bigger. And let's see what spacing we got. 80 spacing. That's almost perfect. I was going to go with 80. And then we'll do that on the top as well. 10, 20, all the way down to 80. And let's add some border radius to that of 10. Add a drop shadow. And let's bump that to 10 as well. Let's go with 1,100 and let's just go with 1,100. Keep it simple. So in here we're going to have our white box. I'm going to add 20 to that blur. And this is going to have a profile picture. So around there. 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. Then beside that it's going to have some text. We probably should have created this in our wireframe instead of just doing a square, but that's okay. I'm sure this will come out decent. I'm just going to say Tyler J, and then we're going to say new. I don't want to title that project capital. Project we started. So this is his post showing a new project he started with his team. For the font, what size font should we use? I'm going to go down 20 to 40, and I'm going to make this all Proxima Nova. Did I do that up here? I did not. Okay. And let's bold the name. So we're going to have the name in all of our posts right in front of the text so we know who's speaking. And let's make this pretty black. Let's go either bold or black itself. I think bold looks pretty good. And I'm going to add 60 spacing there. And over here, we're going to have the timestamp. So I'm going to align that to the right, and I'm going to align this one to the left. And this one's going to say 2 minutes ago. And we'll change that back to regular font. On the side, we did 40 spacing. I like to do an uneven for stuff like this, so this will have like 60, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's a subtle little change that most people don't notice by just looking at it, and I think it looks really good, so that's what we're going to do. For our profile image, I'm going to drag that in later, but we're going to need to adjust some of these settings when we do that, so for now we'll leave it. Here we're going to have a picture of the post, so let's create a rectangle for that. And I'm going to go down to 40, 10, 20, 30, 40 to match that spacing up there. And then down here we're going to have just a little white space, and we might have some dots for different pages so we can swipe back and forth through these. And I'm going to change this to a gray. We're going to make that more of a blue-gray later, but for now that'll be alright. And then let's create our page icons here. I'm going to group those, center them up, and I'm going to go around like there so it's uneven, and those actually need to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and scale them up until I get them to a size I like, just slightly bigger than that. And from the bottom I'll go up probably 40. This one's going to be our main color, so I'm going to make that dark gray for now. And we'll remove the border, and then these will be a lighter gray like that, and then their image will go there, and then we'll have a few of these. So I'm just going to copy this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. There we go. And this one I'm going to have a single post here, so we're not going to need this white space, so I'm going to remove that. And so this image needs to be rounded on the bottom 10 to match the box that's in. I think that's what we had. Yeah, 10. And so I'm going to copy that. Go down 80. And delete the overflow content because we don't really need to scroll in this animation, so that'll do for now. And so we have something like that. So let's put our icons in. For the icons, I'm not going to create from scratch. I'm just going to use the Material.io icons made by Google. I really like them. I'm going to lock this shape's dimensions, and let's bump this to 78. Went ahead and tested this, and I think this is a pretty good size. On the side here, let's add 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 spacing, and then I'm going to center that up with our text. And then for this icon, I'm actually just going to use this square. And I'm going to create 3 more, and then I'm going to go out. Let's actually just duplicate these over 10 and do the same thing. So we have that. Yep, that looks good. I'm going to actually scale that down. So I'm going to grab all of them, group that, go over 60, and then let's center that with the text and the other icon over there. So I'm just going to grab all of them, center them up, and place them in position. There we go. And what spacing do we have? 80. Let's actually match that with the icons so it doesn't look odd. So for this, we're going to have a kind of pattern in these shapes later on, so it'll look a little better than that. And I think that's all we need for our mock-up. The other 2 screens we're going to be designing are very simple. Let's go ahead and create them. And let's just do mock 2. What we're going to do is just copy this, bring it to the front. I'm going to change it to a darker gray. And it doesn't need to be as big. Let's go 230 pixels high. I'm going to grab this icon, copy it, and bring it to the front. Center it up inside there. And I'm going to match this spacing over here. So it should be 80 from the side, as you can see. Then for our text, I'm going to copy and paste this. Center it up there. Let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And we'll have this text say Joe Welsh. And this will be, let's do a liked. So liked your post 3 minutes ago, period. And then we'll change this to 96. Like that. And I'm going to apply a drop shadow to this. And then I'm also going to apply a drop shadow to this one as well. And let's just center all of these up. And we can group this. So that's going to be kind of the layout of how it's going to go. And from there, this will be pushed down to there. So we can delete the rest of that. So that's how it's going to work. And we'll have another one. Just go ahead and do that now. And the other one's going to be a file being sent to us. So we'll just change this to Tyler J. And since he just started a new project, he just sent us a file. So sent you a file. We'll do 11 minutes ago. And so we're going to use a paperclip icon to represent the file. Lock that. Change this to 96 by 96. We can just ungroup this, delete the heart, and drag our paperclip in. So let's add some shadow to this icon as well. 0 on the Y and 10 on the blur. And now we're ready to copy all of these and finish up our design. So I'm just going to name these design. And the third one. Okay. So over here on the side, I just started playing with some colors off camera, and I came up with this. Blue is going to be our main color. This is going to be our main gray, and these are going to be some of the notification colors. So for the like, it'll be this pink, and then for the file, it'll be a nice orange. So let's get started. So I'm going to add these to my swatches so you guys can get the color codes on those. You'll see them right here. Add the pink one, orange, and the gray. So I said we were going to do a pattern on this, so I'm going to go ahead and ungroup that so we can easily work on it. And we'll do each one of the corners and the center as our blue. And then these other ones will be our light gray blue. So for this, I'm going to change this to white, and I'm going to apply a shadow to it. And let's increase that to about 20, and let's actually drop this down to 10 so it's not as visible. Let's also make this icon blue. And I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit darker because it's a little too light, so we're going to have another blue-gray. Somewhere like that. Yeah, that looks better. So for here, we're going to need some faces, so I always have my face folder, and I need to actually add some more faces into this. I've been using the same ones for a while, but this will do for now. Let's apply that. That's probably too much. Yeah, 5 on the border, and then for the shadow, we'll do 0 on the Y and 10 on the blur. And let's drag in another one. For this one, we need to change the text on this after we adjust this. White, 5, same shadow, 0 and 10. And for the name, we'll go with Laura. Let's see what you think, question mark. Dylan did this one, and we'll make that 2-line, and I'll center it up with the icon so we have some 2-line of text so we can view what that kind of looks like when we have more text, and it will fit right here. So let's make sure that's spelled right, or what you think. Dylan did this one. There we go. And then down here we don't need text, but we do need a profile image. And I'll apply that border and shadow, and then we're done with those. Perfect. All right, next let's change the icons here to our blue, and then these two will be the light gray we created. This is also going to be the light blue. By default, that's what the color this box is going to be if the user has a PNG file. So I'm going to go ahead and change this one as well. Okay. And let's drag in an image for this post. So that would be Dylan, I guess. And on this one, I'm going to drag in some app screen prototypes that I really quickly created in Photoshop. We'll just place that there, and then duplicate that. And we'll drag in another one. So we have that, and I'll center that up inside this box. So there we go. That's what that guy posted. Let's make this just a little bit bigger with a little less space in between. And then she posted a photo. We can't view what he posted. And I think that's it for our home page. We do need to change this, the timestamp on this really quick. Yeah, I think that's a good homepage design there. And let's do our notifications now. So this is not, yeah, this is a group. So I'm going to select everything on this artboard and then deselect that group and delete it. I'm going to copy everything over here and paste it and send it to the back. And then we can just grab this and drag it down 80 and delete the leftover. So we have this. And so what we want to do is change this to our pink color, and then our icon will be white. And let's change our text to white as well. And I'm going to do the same thing to this face. I'm going to apply the same styles. So we need whites, the border 5. We already have a shadow on it. That's good. And let's drag in a face here. There we go. Accidentally grabbed this text, so I'm going to paste that in, move it down. And apparently I have lost my other text, so I'm going to drag that down. Center that up. I don't know how I managed to lose those. Okay, so I think everything else is good. Yeah. And let's see, I think that's it for that one. For this one, I'm just going to delete this entire screen. I'm going to duplicate this one. And let's just delete that heart icon. Grab this little bitty one, if I can select it. Copy and paste. Should paste it in the same position. And let's change that to white. And then we need to change the text. There we go. Change that to white. And then we need to drag in the face of Tyler there. And Joe Welsh and Tyler have the same face, so let's drag Tyler's face here all 3 times. And I think that's it. We need to change this color though. Notice that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll quickly check over this off camera and then we'll move into After Effects. Alright, so now I've cleaned up my document and we're ready to export so we can start animating this in After Effects. I've noticed also that our video is getting quite long, so I'm going to try to animate this as quickly as possible so you guys aren't here for an hour. So the first thing I do when I want to start animating is I just look and see what all I need to group together so that we don't have to deal with any text changes or anything. We're just having this section right here slide onto the screen, and this section and this section will kind of bounce down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this, and I'm going to group this section here, and then I'll group this bottom one. And I'll export each one of these by hitting Command E, and I have a motion folder which I'll place this. I'll just name this 1. Go to the next one, Command E, 2, and Command E on 3. So I'll do that. Then we're also going to want to have this grouped together, and this will probably slide down from behind that. So I'll group that and export that, and I'll just call that nav bar. And then we'll just group that together, export it, and I'll just call that one a like. And this one will be grouped, and I'll call this one file. So that's basically how I export this into images, and that's pretty much how we have to do it at this point because there is no After Effects support for XD currently. So over to After Effects now. In After Effects, I just chose to create a new file. I went to New Composition, and let's adjust some of the settings. So instead of doing a YouTube video, we're going to be doing the artboard size. So we did 1500 by 2668. And that was our artboard size. I'm just going to leave the frame rate at 30, resolution at full, and the duration, let's change this to about 20 seconds. I find that's usually a pretty good time that I can get my animation done, and we can always adjust that later. So if we start off there we go. And so I'll open up my Finder over here on my second monitor, and I'll just start dragging all of these things in. So I'll just import them all at once for you guys since you can't see my other monitor. I'll find my navigation bar, and let's open the Align tab, and let's align that top. Make sure it's centered. I'm going to go to Composition, Composition Settings, and I'm going to change the background color to white. Forgot to do that. And I will position that around there. Okay, and now we just have to kind of build the app the way we had it. So I'm going to find my first post, and I'm going to drag that up to the top, 10, and let's center that up. Then I'll find my second post and drag that to the bottom of the first post, and go down again, center that up, and I just kind of visualize the spacing between them. You can hardly ever notice the difference. And this one will be way down here, and center that one. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that we're starting to have everything come together. If I hide the file and the like and zoom out, you can see we've pretty much recreated it exactly like it was in Adobe XD, which is exactly what we want to do. So I'm going to grab the file and the like together, and I'm going to position those right at the bottom of our status bar. So I'm using my arrow keys, and let's find where it's at. That looks to be the bottom, so I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to hide the file for now. So now we can start animating. I got to first think of what I want this to do. So the Joe Welsh liked your post is going to slide down, and then we're going to be able to swipe through back and forth between the file and the like. So we want the file to stay right where it's at in this position. So I've hid that, and I'm just going to be adjusting the like now. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to zoom in so I can get real close, and I'm going to position this behind our status bar. It doesn't really matter if it's exact, and I'm just going to drag it down below our nav bar. And I'm going to do the same thing with the file. I'm going to drag that below the like, even though we can't see it. And so we're going to have that slide down from behind that. So about 1 second into our animation, I'm going to expand my like, transform, and we'll just do position, and I'm going to add a keyframe. I'm going to zoom in pretty far here, and then we'll do that over 10 frames, and we'll have it slide down into position. To make sure it's exactly in position, I'm actually going to go copy the position value from file, which has been sitting where we need it at, which makes it even easier. And there we go. So now you can see if I scroll through the timeline, it slides down. So let's go to preview and see if it's not quick enough. So we'll probably do it over 5 frames then. And there we go. We can apply motion blur to this. I think it's this one, yeah. And I'm also going to choose to apply motion blur to the file because we'll be moving that one as well. And I'm going to preview that one more time. There we go. And so I'm going to highlight these keyframes and go add some adjustments in the graph editor. And zoom in further. Let's make it slow down and see if I like that. Yeah, that looks better. Alright, so that's going to slide into frame there. Very nice. And now we're going to be able to swipe back and forth between the two. So to do that, I'm going to grab the file, and I'm actually going to turn it on. I'm going to drag this layer above the like. And I'm just going to hold shift and hit my right arrow key until I get this off of the screen. Or you could drag it, but I'm just going to make sure that I keep the same position. And there we go. I think that's completely off the screen. So now we're going to animate Joe Welsh, and then we're going to parent the two together, so we only have to animate this once. So I'm going to start this animation and get a good idea of what time I want to swipe at. So it slides down, we see it, about right here I want to swipe. So let's grab our like, open that back up, keyframe our position, and we'll swipe over 5 frames again. So we're going from, I think, 23, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 28. And then I'll just do the same thing I did, holding shift and using my arrow keys until it's completely off of our animation. Like that. Good. And so if I zoom out on my timeline and I zoom out over here, you can see that it slides off. So let's play that and see how it looks. Slides down, slides off. So I'm actually going to drag that out longer because that was a little too quick for a user swipe. So I'm going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to go there. So that's over 10 frames now. I'm going to preview that. That's better. And let's go back into the graph editor and edit these. Let's see. Let's just keep it there. And I'm going to play that one more time. There we go. Okay, so we're almost done with our keyframes on these two elements. Now what we need to do is we need our file notification to follow this one, and I'm going to do so by grabbing this pinwheel on the file layer and just dragging down to the like layer. It will now follow that animation, and it's super easy. So if I pan through here, you can see it follows it, and there we go. So I'm going to make sure everything is nice and good. I'm going to play this. Slides down, we swipe over. Let me make sure this is positioned correctly. Good, no white space, looking good. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to animate our posts here to slide down when that actually comes down. So I'm going to play it one more time just to make sure. It slides down, we swipe over, and later on we'll swipe back and then we'll swipe up to get the notification off the screen. So I'm going to try to explain this to the best that I can. I'm going to be thinking out loud a little bit, so I don't want you guys to get too confused. So when this starts sliding down, let's get out of the graph editor and expand this animation. So what are we at? We're exactly at 1 second. So we want all three of these to animate when that happens. So as soon as it slides down, we want those to slide down as well. And I'm going to do so that they're not all synced up, so they don't all slide down at once. So it's not like a static image sliding down. They're actual different elements animating at different times. And for now, we're just going to animate them at once, and then we're going to adjust the keyframes to kind of give that effect off, if that makes sense. So I'm going to keyframe all three of those, and I'm going to pan forward to the 105, so we're 5 frames ahead. So this is completely down on the screen now. And I'm going to just hold shift and use my down arrow to position this and try to get the same spacing we have here and there. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Needs to come down a little bit more, I think, like that. And let's see how that looks with no graph editing or anything. It's going to be a little weird, but as long as it goes straight down, we're okay. It does. Okay, and like I said, since we have used the graph editor here and adjust the easing, it's not perfectly synced. So, okay. So what I want to do is the bottommost post, I want that to be the quickest. So I'm going to leave this one's keyframes alone. And I'm going to zoom in on our second post, which is this one right here. And I want that time to be dragged out a few frames. 1, 2, 3. Let's try 3. And let's play this. So this one should take longer to get to its final position. It does. Okay. So we want the first one now to go even longer than that one. So I'm going to match those frames together and then go over 1, 2, 3. So now we have kind of a staircase going. So here's the last post, the middle post, and the first post. So I hope that makes sense. And we should have something like that. Now it's going to get real interesting when we start to add the graph editor into this. Before we do that, I'm just going to drag this down a little bit so we can see this better. And I'm going to play the overall animation so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so there you go. So I'm going to select all of these keyframes. Let's drag this back up. So on the first image, holding shift, I'm going to grab the second one, and continuing to hold shift, grab the third one. So now we have this, and I'm going to select all of those, and I'm going to select this right here, which is Easy Ease. So now this is rounded. I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to go through here and pull this over as far as I can get it, so we have something like this. Now this can look pretty complicated if you've never used the graph editor, but I promise you it's not. And if I play this, it's nice and smooth. And so I'm going to get out of the graph editor. I'm going to scale this way down if it'll let me. Come on, there we go. And so let's play our animation now. Perfect. So we have just a nice little bounce between these. You can see that they're at different times, which is exactly what I wanted. It's not too distracting. It's just a nice little adjustment. Alright, so from here we need to animate our swipe back. So let's go forward, continue playing this, swipe there. Let's get a good feel for what time I want to swipe back. Swipe over. Right here I'm going to swipe back. So let's open that back. And I'm just going to collapse all three of these layers for now. And I'm going to leave the like layer open, and I'm going to add a position keyframe. I think we did 10 frames, so I'm just going to zoom in. We are at the 5th frame, so let's go to the 15th frame, and I'm going to hold shift and do my arrow key thing again until it gets all the way back over. And this time I'm going to have to adjust this to make sure that it's right. There we go. So now we can watch that animation, swipe back, and I'm going to go back into the graph editor now with these new 2 keyframes and make sure they're easing the way I want. So I want it to be really quick at first and then slow down, which it is. Very nice. So now let's go back and play the overall animation one more time. Slides down, swipe over, I swipe back. Alright, so one more thing we need to animate is this swiping back up, and then after that we will add in our little circle representing the user's touch. So I'm going to go ahead and play this so I can get a good idea of when I want to swipe up. So we swipe over, swipe back. Right here is when I want to swipe back up. So I'm just going to position that, and I'm just going to click on this keyframe and copy it. I'm going to go 5 frames forward, so I'm going to zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also do so by clicking this one right here, but it's okay. And I'm just going to paste that in. So I just copy and pasted in the original keyframes, and now if I pan through, it will slide up. So let's play that. Perfect. And I'm going to go into the graph editor and check that, make sure it is the way I want it, which it is not. Let's go to the original. You can see it's a little bit more over, so let's adjust that. There we go. And play it. Slides up. And you can also see over here, since we've parented the 2 together, that our other notification is also sliding up over there on the side with it, which is okay. And let's get out of the graph editor, and we should have everything ready for these to slide up now. So we swipe back over, and we swipe up. Alright, so when we do that, we want all 3 of those to animate back up. So I'm going to find the keyframe that we start that on, which is the 18th frame. And let's go ahead and open up layers 1, 2, and 3. Alright, with all 3 of them open and selected, I'm just going to choose to set a keyframe on those. So layer 1, 2, and 3 looks good. And then I'm going to go forward the 10 frames to the end of our animation there. Make sure that's right. Yes. And we're just going to copy and paste each one of these original frames to get them back in the proper position. So on layer 3, copy the first frame, paste it in. Layer 2, do the same thing. And layer 1, there we go. So now what we want to happen is the reverse. We want the first post to slide in, and then the second post behind it, and then the third post behind that one. So this one's going to be the quickest. Then the second layer, I'm going to zoom in, and it's going to go over 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to match the last one, which is the third post, to the second one, and then go over 1, 2, 3. So now we have our little staircase. As you can see, here's our 3 keyframes, but it's the reverse order now. So if I zoom out, you can see what I'm talking about by looking at these. So if I go back and I play this, I'm going to zoom out here so we can see all of them. There we go. So now I'm going to highlight all 3 of these sets of keyframes and go into the graph editor one last time. Zoom in. You can see the difference between the two. This one over here is more spiked, and these are rounded. All we have to do is just drag this. Whoops. Drag it over here. Let me zoom in more. Like that. So if I zoom out, you can see they match. And I think that is it. Let me collapse these layers. Let's get out of the graph editor. And let's play this. So we swipe down, all these adjust. We swipe over, we swipe back, and we swipe up, and they adjust again. Nice. I'm going to make sure that this push down right here is timed the way I want it. I think it looks okay. Alright, so now what we need to do is add the user input into this. So we're going to do that by creating a little circle and animating that like the user swiping and things on the screen. So we're almost done, and since we're working on the last layer, I'm just going to drop that down a little bit. Let's grab a ellipse. Holding shift, I'll create a circle. And what I like to do is I like to have a white fill, and then I have a 4-pixel stroke, and I'm going to change that to this pink color and then just drag it over so it's a washed out pink. And if I deselect, you can see what we have there. Let's actually make this see 16. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And we'll make that opaque just slightly. So I'm gonna open the transform tab and go down to opacity and choose 90. So this is what it's gonna look like as we use it. I'm also gonna hold Y and I'm gonna drag this into position so that it's centered. And let's begin to keyframe this. So I'm gonna find 1 second, and that slides down. And where does the swipe begin? It's going to pan through right there. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the like layer so I can view the keyframes to make sure we're pretty exact. There we are. And I want this to be about right here, and it's going to slide over. So I'm going to set the position. And we're going to go over 5 frames. I'm going to zoom in so we can do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll put it over here. And let's go up slightly. And I'm going to adjust the line to curve. Because when you swipe with your thumb on the screen, it actually curves naturally a little bit. So this is just going to make it look a little bit more natural than computer generated. So like that. And we have to play around with the opacity so that this actually looks pretty good. So originally we want this at 0% opacity, so I'm going to go ahead and set that. And I'm going to keyframe that. And what I want to happen is a few frames before we start the movement, I want it to be completely visible. So I'm going to go like 4 frames ahead. 1, 2, 3. Actually, let's go 3. And I'm going to set this to 90. And we'll just make that appear over time. So it should look like that. There we go. And before the animation stops, so before it becomes to its last frame, we want it to be completely opaque again. So I'm going to copy these keyframes and paste them and drag them over. And let's actually slide that out a bit so that it animates a little bit longer. And we can play that, and you can see there. I actually need to delete this keyframe and see. This one needs to be 0. Just a second. Dragging those over, and there. Okay. Sorry about that. I had the keyframes reversed. So it becomes viewable, it slides over and it disappears. And we want this to kind of happen right before the slide itself so that it looks good. So I'm going to slide it over. So we kind of swipe and then it goes. So if I play it, there we go. And I'm actually going to drag the final position over a little bit more so that it's actually traveled a little bit further. Like that. And then we're going to adjust the graph editor on the position. So I'm going to round that off. There we go. Like that. So if I zoom out, deselect it, we can view it. Actually, gotta go back. There we go. Now I can view it. Swipe over. And then we're going to have the same thing happening to swipe back, and then we're going to swipe up. And this is really hard to explain, so I hope this is not too confusing. So let's find where we swipe back now, which is right here. And we can just copy and paste this. And we'll do some adjustments from there. So when our first original animation starts, this keyframe here, we're in between these two. So I'm just going to try to match that. Like that. And we need to change our positions now. So I'm going to slide these over and out of the way. So we want this to start from here. So I'm going to paste that there. And so now it'll stay still. It'll kind of bounce. And we want it to end where we originally started. So I'm going to paste that there. So we should have a swipe back. And I'm just going to adjust the position slightly. So I'm going to drag this down so it starts here. And then at the end, I want it to start a little bit higher, or finish a little bit higher. And I'll adjust this line so it's curved a little bit. There we go. I'm going to copy this position and paste it before it becomes visible so we have no bouncing issues. And then let's put the opacity back to where it was. And let's play it. Swipe back. Okay. Swipe over. Swipe back. Perfect. So now we need it to swipe up. So I'll find where that animation starts now. And we'll copy and paste. Let's copy and paste the original. And drag that into position. Around there. So to recap, what's happening is the opacity is going from 0 to 90%, and it's a few frames before it actually starts moving, so it looks like the user's pressing on the screen before they swipe. And then from there, it starts animating, and when it gets about halfway through the animation, it starts fading out to 0 opacity again, and then it finishes the animation. So that's what I'm doing, so it looks like a smooth finger swipe, and that's the best way I have found to get it to actually look like a finger swipe. Alright, so now what we need to do is adjust the position on this so that it looks like we're swiping up. So I'm just gonna drag it. Let's put it just off-centered. And I'm gonna copy this keyframe and put it before anything starts so that it's perfectly still before it does anything. Okay, so right here, it's doing some weird movements. We'll fix all that in a second. That's because of the easing. So it's doing that. So that looks really weird. But what we want it to do is go from here. I'm going to move these opacity frames over so we can adjust the position. We just want it to go up. Just about like right there. And I'm going to adjust the path of this so it's just a little bit curved. So now you can see it swipes up like that. So now I'm going to put the opacity keyframes back here. And so if I play this, try to ignore the bouncing, we'll fix that. It swipes up. Okay, so now to fix the bouncing, that is due to our easing. So we have to go to the graph editor. So I'm going to select all my frames and go to the graph editor. And you can see we have some things that we don't want happening here. So I'm going to select this frame and you just have to select this one right here, and it will stop that weird bouncing. And so I think we have some bouncing here that we don't want. So right here, I'm going to do the same thing. So now it swipes kind of straight up. I need to adjust that path. There we go. Okay, so let's see if we have any other bouncing to deal with. Right here we have some unwanted bouncing, so I'm going to select this keyframe and remove the ease. So now it swipes straight over. Perfect. Continuing down the timeline, and we have any other bouncing that I don't want right here. Remove that. And I think that's it. So it took me a while to figure out that's what was happening. It was the easing. When you deal with a lot of easing, you'll experience some of that bouncing. And I eventually figured out that's what it was, and that's how to fix it. And let's swipe up. So I'm going to adjust that path. So position, I want it to be over and there. Alright, that should be it. That's very hard to explain. I hope that wasn't too confusing. If we play this, we should have a nice finished animation. All we have to do is adjust our timeline and we should be good to go. So I'm going to play it. Okay, notification pops down. We swipe over, we swipe back, and then we swipe up. Very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it one more time, about a second after the last bit of animating. I will cut all of our layers. It's about right there. We'll just go all the way over to 7 seconds and go to composition settings, and we'll adjust the time to 7 seconds, and then we have our finished animation. Alright guys, we have finally come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed the combination of the XD designing and the After Effects animating. You guys did request that I include that so you guys can see how I do it. I tried to explain it so you guys could learn it for yourselves. It's a little hard to explain the keyframing, but I think I did a decent job explaining what exactly I was doing. So I hope you guys could follow along and you did enjoy it. It was a longer style video, so I hope I didn't ramble on too long. If you liked this video, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys want to see in any of my other videos down in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, you should. More UI content. And as always, have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. On the left is my previous video, just in case you missed it. On the right is YouTube's recommendation just for you, and the top center icon is my channel icon. Click that to subscribe for more content just like this. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.